Did you do Head Start when you were a kid? I did when I was a kid, and I turned out great. But now people with disabilities have been denied Head Start because of the disabilities. Now, why is that? Good evening and welcome to Give Me a Break. I'm Jonathan Carmody. The mother you're about to meet, she says that her son with disabilities was denied Head Start enrollment after the Upbring takeover. Now, why would that happen? Well, here's my good friend Tony Hallamir.
Upbring Head Start aims to open a new chapter in early childhood education for low-income families in Corpus Christi. But months after taking over from the Nueces County Community Action Agency, the program still hasn't opened its doors.
We're working at the pace that the Head Start agency wants us to work at.
Upbring representatives couldn't say when the centers would open. That was during a city council meeting back in February. This parent asked to remain anonymous to protect her child's identity. We'll call her Jennifer. For parents like her, the frustration goes beyond delays. Her child, who has multiple disabilities, was enrolled under the previous agency. She says she was told at the October town hall that Upbring would be able to accommodate her son.
Right after that town hall, yes, I began to think that that they weren't going to take him in, only because she kept on saying it was more for general ed students.
Jennifer says she was initially told by staff that removing her son because of his disability would be considered discrimination, but that's exactly what she feels happened.
I did feel at that point in time that my son was being discriminated upon because he does have multiple disabilities.
In a complaint to the Federal Office of Head Start, Jennifer cites a regulation that prohibits denying enrollment based on disability or its severity.
I've sent out 2 complaints to the Office of Head Start, and I have not received anything from them.
We asked Upbring about the situation. While they declined to comment on specific children, they provided a general statement. In part, we do not deny enrollment based on disability status or need. In certain cases, when a child's needs exceed what can be safely and appropriately supported within the Head Start setting, we work with families and ISDs to ensure the child is transitioned to a more supportive, specialized environment. This raised questions for Jennifer as her son was in the same program under the same funding for the last 4 years.
I just know that it was hard on him just for the transition in itself and having to go and meet new teachers, get adjusted again.
As of April 7th, Upbring has put in 7 total applications with 1 initial permit issued, and that's according to Health and Human Services. On the west side, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Tony Jaramillo, Chris 6 News.
So we'll let you know what happens when, something like this would happen. Now a story about a Kingsville playground.
I'm Tyrese Moore, your neighborhood news reporter here in Kingsville. Several of you reached out to us about Harold Elementary using PTO funds to buy food and other items. I spoke with a concerned neighbor and the district about these claims. A lot of questions that need to be answered. Hopefully we'll get some in this meeting.
That'd be nice. It's been over 10 years.
That is Elizabeth Ramos, a former board member of Kingsville ISD. She is speaking about the playground at Harold Elementary that is in need of a makeover and funds.
It's a missing slide. It's also got nails and plywood blocking where a slide would be. There's exposed metal where kids can hurt their feet on and scratch themselves.
Before leaving the board, Ramos says there was $15,000 in the PTO account that would have been spent in the playground. However, after submitting an open records request, the total amount left in February,
It's down to roughly $2,000 last time I checked.
So what was the money spent on? According to the documents, it wasn't spent on the playground. Instead, it was spent on places like Wingstop, Amazon, and Cash App payments for balloons.
They were in hundreds of dollar increments each time. There were also food purchases, which would only feed about 2 to 4 people at the most. So I was wondering where that went to.
After she posted this statement on Facebook, neighbors reached out to Chris 6 News to look into this. I attended the PTO meeting on Tuesday to get answers, and some neighbors did too. Those in attendance were not happy.
So now our babies are out of $12,000. It doesn't matter when it was raised. It was earmarked for the playground.
According to the PTO staff, there are currently $7,000 in the account. They will look into this issue and will discuss further at their next meeting. And as for the playground, the Kingsville ISD superintendent said in a statement that it is in the planning process with phases soon to be discussed. Kingsville ISD is conducting an audit on the PTO to further investigate these claims. In Kingsville, I'm your neighborhood news reporter, Tyrese Boone, Chris 6 News.
The claim... What? Look.
I was wondering where...
Payments for balloon.
DoorDash, Google, Walmart, Wingstop. $75 for Wingstop? You can barely spend $75.88 for Wingstop, $45 at Walmart, $30 at Walmart, $86 at DoorDash, $16, but you can't really spend $12,000 on a playground? I get, you want to have an after-school party and all, but safety and remodeling comes first. Get real. You should know how to operate a school system. Know how to run a school system. As a board president, you need to step in. As a superintendent, you got to step in and say, hey, we need to stop all these randomized purchases and focusing on the playground. That's exactly right. But is it going to happen? Probably not. You know why? Because nobody will know. Not all this. Look at all this. All this was way back in December. Way back.
Went to.
After she posted this statement on Facebook, neighbors reached out to Chris 6 News to look into this. I attended the PTO meeting on Tuesday to get answers, and some neighbors did too. Those in attendance were not happy.
So now our babies are out of $12,000. It doesn't matter when it was raised. It was earmarked for the playground.
And it was all about the playground. It should still be about the playground to this day. We'll keep you posted on what's been going on. This woman says she was fired for telling the truth. Would you ever imagine being fired for telling the truth? That story is still ahead. And later on, yesterday we told you about a flag incident. Well, now there's a new update. Stay with us. Yesterday, I brought you the story about a student who was suspended for asking why a class who does not have an American flag. To recap, a student at Baltimore County asked the principal, why is there not a flag? The principal says, I'll look into it. So he went to the school board and asked what the heck was going on. When an hour later, police showed up, not asking about the flag, but to have him trespass and being suspended for 3 days. Not 1, not 2, but 3 days out of school suspension for truancy and not following instructions in classroom disruption. Now there's an update. The same student you're about to meet tonight, he is now filing a lawsuit against the school district because his rights are violated for not answering questions and for recording, which is part of his constitutional rights. Here's Chris Papps with our update.
After serving a 7-day suspension, Towson High School senior Parker Jensen returned to class on Tuesday and ready to fight back.
I think it's very important, and Mr. Jensen feels the same way.
Sarah Spitalnik is a Baltimore-based attorney who just filed this lawsuit against Baltimore County Public Schools, America's 22nd largest school system, with a nearly $3 billion budget.
I would definitely say it's some kind of bullying.
Spitalnik claims in the complaint filed on April 3rd that BCPS acted unlawfully when it suspended Jensen for a week.
Do you believe Jensen's constitutional rights were violated?
Absolutely.
I'm joining the Marine Corps, and patriotism has always been a big thing in mine.
Project Baltimore broke the news on Monday.
Yes, sir.
That on March 28th,
Yes, sir.
Jensen withdrew from his class and drove to the Baltimore County Board of Education building, hoping to speak with district leadership about missing American flags at Towson High School.
I believe that this is the main entrance.
According to Baltimore County School Board Policy 6307 and Maryland Education Code 7-105, an American flag must be displayed in each classroom. But Jensen said some classrooms at Towson High did not have flags. So he went to the Board of Education to find out why, and recorded much of his visit.
I had a Towson High School lacrosse shirt on. I have my student ID.
But Jensen did not get answers. Instead, BCPS called the police.
3 cop cars for a kid.
And the 18-year-old was told by Richard Muth,
You're actually suspended from the school.
the school safety emergency manager, that he was immediately suspended for 7 days.
He was summarily suspended without any due process whatsoever, which every student in Baltimore County and Maryland has the right, and they stripped him of that within 5 seconds.
Baltimore County Public Schools declined to comment on the lawsuit, but BCPS did tell Fox 45 News in an earlier email, as of April 1st, flags have been installed in the classrooms that did not have them. In the lawsuit, Jensen asked for his suspension to be vacated, along with monetary relief from BCPS for damages. Spitolnik fears the suspension could negatively affect Jensen's grades and future. Jensen is set to report for Marine boot camp in August.
Yes, sir.
But if he decided, after serving in the Marines, to go to college, this high school suspension could affect his college application.
We're still pushing to make sure that he has the most successful and active senior year he possibly can.
Because there's one more aspect to this. As of now, because of his suspension, Jensen cannot attend senior prom, which is scheduled for mid-May. If the lawsuit is successful and the suspension is vacated, he can attend.
He got suspended for very little cause. He did nothing wrong besides try to bring forth his First Amendment right and really enforce a Maryland law, which is to have American flags in every single classroom.
When the police were called on Jensen at the Board of Education building on March 28th, BCPS threatened to charge him with trespassing. But as of today, that charge has not been filed. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
Well, it's great that the trespassing charge was not there, but it was not great when his prom privilege was taken away. Look, he had every right to question. He didn't go up to them and say, hey, you're violating the law. You're supposed to have flags. All he wanted to do was ask one question. Why is there not a flag? Just why? And then we got an answer like, oh, we were unaware about the situation, Mr. Jensen. We'll take care of this right away. Thank you, sir. Awesome, well done. For asking a question, what a bunch of immature crowley bullies. Thanks for putting on this bullshit. Sucks that the taxpayers end up being the victim in these cases. Sue the administrators directly. If officials would instead receive 1 or 2 days of jail time for things like this, a lot of money would be saved not having to sue them. Yes, 1 or 2 days to be sufficient to make them stop being corrupt. That administration needs to be fired. They should be ashamed. Hope that lawsuits win. Yay! I don't pay taxes. Well, you're going to jail. My question is, did he address this with the principal at the high school first? Also, it said he withdrew from his class. Was he allowed to leave, or did he leave on his own accord? He wants to be a Marine. He needs to learn that without chain of command and leaving your post without permission. And I hope he's fighting back for this. We'll keep you posted what's been going on in the future. Give me a break. We'll let you know what happens. But here's some common sense. It is not against the law to ask questions. It is not against the law to say that you're violating the law. But Maryland state law and education law specifically states
-105.
This is the board policy, which says provision shall be made for the display of the flag of the United States of America on the sign of each school, office, or other installation of the board, and for the display said flag in each classroom of every Baltimore County public school. Provide each public school's classroom with an American flag. That's their policies, which they're violating, and they just want to sit there and say, well, we'll look good on paper, we'll look good on TV, we'll create these scandals so we can look good on paper and look good on TV. Well, that's not going to work. Your ass will be chewed up, and yet you're going to be the ones looking like a fool. Unless that person that called the police says, hey, I'm very sorry this happened to you. Unless that can happen, you know, that person that called the police would apologize and say, hey, you know, we don't want to go to court over this. let's settle this and we'll forget this ever happened. So, in the future, we'll let you know what happens. You know, throughout the years, we've been talking about homework and the dread of homework. But here's a question for you. Can you sue your teacher if you have too much homework? Could you sue your teacher for giving you too much homework? The answer could lie in another country. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Here's a question for you. Here's the thing. Could you ever imagine getting too much homework from your teacher, and yet you threaten to sue, and your teacher says there's no state law saying there's no limit on homework which I can give you, and then you don't have any proof? Well, if you live in Canada, that's some great news. So, here's Law by Mike.
If your teacher gives you too much homework, can you sue them?
I have to read all of these by tomorrow? I'm gonna sue you.
Don't you know there's no limit on how much homework I can assign?
She's right. Most schools don't have laws limiting homework, but if your school has a policy on maximum assignments, you can report her if she's breaking the rules.
But Mike, I can't handle all this homework. Are you sure I can't sue her?
Technically, you can sue for anything, but winning, that's a different story. You'd have to claim emotional distress, and proving that over homework would be very difficult.
So you're saying there's no way I can win?
Well, there was this one time. A group of Canadian parents sued their kid's school, arguing that homework was damaging family time. And guess what? They settled with the school, and their kids never had homework again.
Mom, Dad, we're moving to Canada.
If your teacher gives you too much homework, can you sue them?
That doesn't mean you move to Canada. It's just to teach you that you got to turn your assignments in on time. Whether it's homework assignments or your work assignments, any assignments you have to turn it in at a certain time. And we looked at the 7 reasons why homework sucks from Rob's rants. Because you may have turned in all your homework, and what you may have done is you may have turned in all your homework, and not just that, not just turning your homework, but you would have at least a C in the class, a passing grade. But other times people will just copy down homework and have to finish it later. It's like, okay, don't retain information and pass the class. And, you know, I would, if that ever happened to me, you know, I would probably never have forgiven myself. Alright. Okay. Now I want to a story about trucks. Many of you not have realized it, but there is a law with limiting how many hours can a trucker drive. But what you're about to see here is truckers violating the law. There was a 3-part report on this by a separate week. I do not have the other part of the story, but if I did, it'd be another report. So here's Fred Francis.
Reports. It's not just their own lives; they're putting it.
So I don't know what I would do. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a short break so I can get myself together, and then we're gonna come back. And when we come back, Fred Francis will have a story about truckers violating the law. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. If you drive an 18-wheeler, or if you used to drive an 18-wheeler, then this next story is for you. It's about truckers driving 18-wheelers and some who are breaking laws by not taking a break. Truckers say they can't abide by the law because they cannot take a break required by law. So, why is that? Well, you're about to take a ride with a trucker who says he will not take breaks. He'll ride on and he'll get away with it as best he can. Here's Fred Francis.
For Steve Iser, mile marker 52 on the interstate in Maine is an emotional way station. For his wife Daphne, it's a reminder of the most horrible event in their lives.
It's a parent's worst nightmare. Their life changed that night and will never be the same again.
That night was October 10, 1993. An 80,000-pound tractor-trailer crushed a compact car, taking the life of their son and 3 other teens after the trucker allegedly fell asleep. In fact, American highways are a trucker's killing field. Over 4,800 deaths last year. Many are the result of driver fatigue, a system which forces dangerously long driving hours, and enforcement which often turns a blind eye. Meet Peter Kennedy. We'll be going on a cross-country trucking odyssey with him. Kennedy is a straightforward, 48-year-old, hard-working guy. But as you'll see, like many truckers, almost every time he goes to work, he breaks the law. I have to do it. There's no way around it. I have to do it. No one would last doing it legally. No one would last it be over.
Kennedy is angry that he has to sidestep federal rules just about every day he's on the job. So he allowed Dateline cameras to record his journey. It will be a rare look at a pressure-packed run, with the law being broken all along the way. Kennedy started this trip in Maine and drove 6 days to Denver and on to Phoenix. After a drive that long, federal regulations require Kennedy to spend a day off the road resting. Instead, ignoring the law, on his 7th day on the road, he's come straight to Salinas, California.
Jesus. How can I be very, very sure? I can't believe it. While he waits for 70,000 pounds of perishable produce to be loaded, Kennedy learns that some personal checks have bounced. Like most truckers, Kennedy is paid by the mile and says he earns $30,000 a year. When you add up the grueling hours, it's less than minimum wage. The bottom line is, if you're sitting at any packing house waiting to be loaded, you're not making any money. You only make money when you're moving. When I'm moving. Yeah.
So he keeps moving. After driving west all the way across the country in 7 days, Kennedy now has just 6 days to deliver his load back east, from Salinas, California to Boston, another 3,200 miles.
By law, truckers are allowed to drive for 10 hours, then must rest for 8. So to make the trip back east legally in 6 days, Kennedy has to average 58 miles per hour with no delays for weather, construction, or traffic. And he can only take 1 hour in every 10 for food, fuel, bathroom, and rest. Most truckers say the only way to make this run is to ignore the law.
In fact, regulations required Kennedy to sleep before leaving Salinas because he spent 12 hours loading. But he's anxious to gain time.
You know, I should have been out of here at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock.
So on his 8th day on the road, Kennedy heads out without any sleep at all. However, he notes in his official log that he slept for 6 hours.
Why did you take a snooze break before you left California? Never do. I always get the rain out. I do it, probably illegally. I do it, but I'm awake. I mean, I'm not tired. I mean, I'm programmed. I'm tired. Well, that's you. I've done this a lot of years, so I'm pretty well programmed on that. Well, by the time you get to Reno, you will have been up 22 hours. Yeah. Yeah. But I'll sleep good. I'm going to sleep quick.
We arrive at Reno, Nevada at 5 a.m. Although he's been up over 22 hours, Kennedy says he's too wound up to sleep yet.
In 27 years of hard driving, Kennedy says he has racked up over 3 million miles, sleeping less than he should, and gambling that his fatal fatigue number doesn't come up.
Kennedy finally grabs a 6-hour sleep in Reno.
I ain't got no choice now. When I get in, I gotta have that fixed.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the way back. Day 9. Kennedy heads through Nevada and into Utah, averaging just under 60 miles an hour. He says he tries to stay under the speed limit, but he's used to going over the 10-hour legal driving limit.
I can't be reprogrammed. So I'm breaking the law. I'm breaking the law then.
After still another 13-hour workday, Kennedy nabs a 5-hour sleep in Utah. The 10th day on the road begins with a ritual. Long-distance truckers are required to keep a log of the hours they drive and rest. But Kennedy says most truckers simply put in their logbook what the authorities want to see.
Well, it's a lie book, actually. I mean, what you're doing is incriminating yourself. You're lying on it. Yeah, I mean, you have to make a living. You have to lie. Get your logbook or shit.
There are highway inspection stations in every state, which truckers dread. This is where a logbook check can result in a fine or even getting ordered off the road for a day. But the truckers know that unless their fuel and toll receipts are checked, a falsified logbook usually gets you right through. As Kennedy heads through Utah, all the inspection stations on the trip east have been closed. He's escaped any scrutiny, and as far as he's concerned, none is needed.
It's never a danger of falling asleep. I'm just not the type of guy to do that. I've got this down to a science. I know what I can take and what I can't take.
But what some truckers do take to cope with the grueling hours is everything from endless coffee to drugs. We asked Kennedy whether he uses drugs.
Oh, we used to take the two pills, the speed amphetamines. I don't even know what the hell they were, I was on those for a little while. Then, I did, probably 6 years, maybe 5, 6 years. And I knew, well, I gotta find another job, because I can't live like this. And there ain't no sense of driving if you have to have something like that. This is stupid. It's independence and it's foolishness.
Kennedy arrives in Laramie, Wyoming 10 days and 5,000 miles after he first left Maine. Still 2,000 miles from Boston, Kennedy looks like a day off wouldn't hurt.
Driving drowsy is no different than driving drunk. And we have seen people go from full wakefulness to sleep in 2 seconds.
Dr. William Dement of Stanford University is an expert on sleep and driver fatigue. In interviews with several hundred truckers, Dr. Dement says that 80% admitted their warning sign to get off the road is when they begin to fall asleep.
They may think they can cope with it, but they're putting all the rest of us at risk.
What most truckers we talk to want is a longer driving day, and federal regulations changed to increase their driving hours from 10 to 15.
It's regulation, strangulation. That's what you call it, strangulation. It's a mess. It's a mess.
3 more hours of driving after his truck stop break, and Kennedy ends this 18-hour day in Big Springs, Nebraska at 2 a.m.
Point of this, I've been asleep since 10 o'clock.
After sleeping for just 5 hours, Kennedy's 11th day on the road begins. Nebraska, no stopping here, 1,800 miles to go. He's in luck. Both inspection stations he's passed are closed. Kennedy is driving hard to get past Nebraska's last possible check into Iowa, but then a problem.
How about a shorty out there?
The word is spread among truckers. An inspection station down the road is open. Remember, Kennedy hasn't taken time off since he left Maine 11 days ago. That's blatantly illegal. Kennedy and these other truckers pull over just ahead of the inspection station to fix up their logs.
I don't know what time, I can't remember what time we left. It's ridiculous, it's just, it's most... Yeah, and these are just got everything checked out.
Kennedy heads out to discover his fate. If they check his fuel and toll receipts carefully, they'll know he doctored his logbook. He'll be put off the road for a day or two and be late with his perishable load to Boston. Kennedy and his company will lose money and maybe a customer. Will Kennedy's run end in ruin?
Will it be end in ruin? When we come back, that trucker who we saw will probably pass the inspection, probably we won't. But see what you think. And also, before we go on break, we should let you know that we also focused in on sleeping while driving. So this could be very similar to, sleeping while driving and drunk driving. When we come back, the toughness begins with a trucker versus an inspection. Please do this. Returning to our story, you've heard Peter say that he's been traveling for over 5 days. 5 days without taking any breaks. As you saw in his log, he slept, took a break, he slept at 10, got up at 2, and started moving. But now they're passing an inspector along the way. And he forgets to put it down on his log. Is he going to pass? Or is the inspector going to find something very fishy going on in this log? Dateline cameras are there, and you Give Me a Break viewers are going to see what happens when the inspector inspects the truck and the truckers. Once again, here's Fred Francis.
After 3 days and 1,500 miles driving east, Kennedy is about to go through the first open inspection station so far. Like other truckers, he's falsified his legal logbook. But if he's checked carefully, he could be ordered off the road. A disaster.
I wonder why my stress level's high. It's a game,
But the inspection station has just closed. A near miss. Escaped again. For only the 4th time heading east, Kennedy settles into the truck's sleeper berth. As you will see, incredibly, it will be his last sleep. As he often does, Kennedy will go from Chicago to Boston 1,100 miles, a drive of over 20 hours with no sleep. And it was a drive just that long which led to tragedy in Maine for Steve and Daphne Iser, when a tired trucker demolished a car, killed 4 teenagers, and lied about it.
For 4 days, we believed that Jeffrey was the cause of that crash. All because the truck driver was trying to put the blame on them. They weren't here to stand up for themselves.
I swear to God, sir, I remember somebody being out there. In this police video, the truck driver, Robert Hornbarger, insisted that Jeffrey Iser's car was stopped on the highway right in the traveling lane. But police found an eyewitness who saw Jeffrey Iser's car in the breakdown lane and saw Hornbarger's truck barrel off the highway at full speed.
Were you falling asleep at the wheel?
No, not as far as I can remember. I cannot.
Okay, because that's the problem. When you can't remember, that's indicative of somebody falling asleep.
Hornbarger later conceded that he probably fell asleep at the wheel, something he now denies. But he was only charged with and pleaded guilty to falsifying his logbook. The Isers were outraged, but the man who killed their son and 3 other teens was only charged with a misdemeanor.
There's 4 dead people, and there's no questions. There's no responsibility.
It makes no sense to us or anybody else.
We will be getting regular updates for our newsletters from...
The Isers decided something had to be done, so they formed Parents Against Tired Truckers. The Grieving Crusaders forced Maine's governor to beef up logbook inspection. The Isers also waged a campaign to have trucker Robert Hornbarger imprisoned. Finally, it's sentencing day. Robert Hornbarger, who ended 4 young lives, is sentenced to 4 months in jail.
He brought it on himself. Had he gotten enough sleep, his life wouldn't be ruined. Our lives wouldn't be ruined. Jeffrey and his friends would be here.
Song. They've done me 6 days on the road, then I want to make it home tonight. 6 days on the road, and I don't want to get home tonight.
It's Peter Kennedy's 6th day out of Salinas, and his 12th day on the road, and he has to make it to Boston by midnight. A drive of over 20 hours with no sleep. Being asked how you feel seems like a ridiculous question.
Like $1 million. 6 days on the road, and I don't want to get home tonight.
John. Yeah, go ahead, Kevin. Yeah, okay. Hang around. I'll be right there. They can start again. Okay, let me get the service area. Okay. Listen, I mean, hey, what else you gonna do, right?
Kennedy has made it through 10 states heading back east, and still not one inspection.
Oh, man, long head. Boston.
Finally, in Pennsylvania, an open inspection station. If Kennedy is caught and grounded now, the whole run will be a disaster. Kennedy and his company will lose money. He drives in cautiously. The inspector is nowhere to be seen. And so Kennedy heads right out the other side.
6 days on the road and I'm gonna make it home tonight.
Oh, there he is.
Having left Kennedy in Reno, I meet him again in Connecticut.
Hey, how you doing? Pretty good. I feel all right? Yeah, everyone's asking me how I feel, yeah. Look like hell. Do it?
Day 13, Kennedy has made it to Boston. In just under 6 days, he has slept only 21 hours, an average of 3.5 hours a day. He will drop off his load on time. To do so, he has broken the law, put himself and others at risk through dangerously long hours, and all for a pay that's less than minimum wage.
How you feel? Honestly. Well, I'm tired, but I'm not falling asleep. I'm not dozing or anything like that. I'm, worn out, It's routine. That's all I can say. It's routine. It's routine. There should be things done about it, but no one seems to be too interested in it.
What about Kennedy's boss? Ray Mayhew says on most runs, truckers can work within the law.
Well, the fact is, we just had a haul. Yes, sir. 6 days. Legal. Illegal. No way that trip was legal. How? The driver, Peter Kennedy, didn't take the required time off. He made the log up as he went along so he would look legal.
Sometimes it's very, very difficult. I'm not gonna argue that point. It's very difficult.
And necessary to go from Chicago to Boston in 19 hours and just drive it straight.
It depends, I guess.
For Kennedy, a final flaunting of the law. After his 6-day drive from California, according to regulation, he should still be in Boston, off the road resting. But home is only 3 hours away, and he hasn't waited. Now Kennedy has one final hurdle. He is on the main interstate and approaching the last inspection station of his trip. This is where the Eisers and their group have battled for increased enforcement, to find sleepy truckers and get them off the road.
We're doing it to make changes, and we will make changes. And the kids' lives won't be in vain then.
Will Peter Kennedy make it through? From California to Maine, the inspection system has closed its eyes to Kennedy's law-breaking trip.
You would tell them, Mr. and Mrs. Eisner, I'm a safe driver. Yes, I am. Would you tell them that it can't happen to you? No.
Just 48 hours after getting home, Peter Kennedy was ordered, illegally, without enough rest, to drive back out west. Halfway there, he's told the results of a random drug test taken 2 days before Dateline recorded his journey. It turns out that the man who said using drugs was stupid tested positive for amphetamines and marijuana. Federal law required the company to take Kennedy off the road immediately. Instead, Kennedy says they told him to finish the trip. When he returned to Maine, he was fired.
The American Trucking Association says it does not condone anyone falsifying logbooks or driving more than the legal number of hours. The ATA says the trucking industry has been trying to clean up rule violations for a decade. Now, when we conclude our investigation next week, we'll have the surprising response of government regulators to our report. And you'll find out why a simple solution to the problem has been virtually ignored. That's next week on Dateline.
And if I had that story, if I had that story, we would play it. But I don't know if he has that story. This person has the story, but I'll keep you posted. But well, it's not there.
Let's do it.
It's not there, so we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back. We're back to news. Ultimate Fighting was one of the best things ever many years ago. And now it was on 20 years ago when countries wanted to ban broadcasting this. Now why would that be? Here's Tom Joe.
Consider this. Dan Severing is regarded as the champion of a sport so brutal, so violent. He ran out of human sparring partners a long time ago.
It's difficult to find a 200-plus pound workout partner that wants to be thrown around, choked, arm-barred.
Dan has substituted an 85-pound dummy to whack around. Who else could take this kind of punishment?
They're my best workout partners, so they're always on time. They never complained, and hope they have a great deal.
What they're helping him to do is pound opponents into submission inside a weird-looking 30-foot wide, 8-sided octagon ring, pinned in by a 5-foot-high chain-link fence that's just perfect for shoving someone's head into. The blood going now. The blood is flowing up. Severing is the new bare-knuckle super champion of what's called Ultimate Fighting. Severing put a pounding on Katara's head. And his purse in this fight was $150,000. While the losers got medical attention and considerably less prize money for what's promoted as a blood sport.
This event is not for the faint of heart. There may be some blood spilled. There may be some bones broken. This is real. It's live. It's brutal. Here we go.
It's a freewheeling brawl. There are only 2 rules. No eye gouging and no biting.
That's got his knee in his face.
Everything else goes, up to and including what's called dirty or street fighting.
Oh, this is allowed in this competition. That is brutal. He's grabbing the hair. That is perfectly legal.
They use bare fists, elbow hits, and headbutting.
Oh, you see the cut on the back of it. That's pretty bad.
As contestants, the promoters have found a broad range of athletes. Some professionals who are skilled in martial arts, which include karate, kickboxing, regular boxing, and wrestling.
Look at this.
The events range from terrifying violence.
That's intense, folks. That is intense. That's what it's all about.
To moments of downright boredom. Much of the time, the matches look dull and tame. They're often filled with bear hugs, grappling, and traditional wrestling holds. The matches are performed live before a crowd at ringside, but that's not where the money or the profits are. This is a televised pay-per-view event that's hot. One fight reached an estimated 300,000 fans, and the pay-per-view ticket at home cost about $25 each.
Oh, that's it. Oh, Lord.
What's too repulsive for a general audience before a home TV has a growing cadre of followers at places like New York's Boomer's Bar. Their eyes were locked on the pay-per-view screens during the controversial championship event, and most of these fans loved it.
It's real, and they're going at it, and it's beating the crap out of men, and it's good. And that's what we like.
The mental discipline and the physical discipline is unbelievable.
I think it's fun.
He'll break his arm. He's going to snap his arm. He did, too.
Wow.
Is that broken? Yeah. He did.
But some thought it was tasteless.
He's afraid so they use three of them just to breathe and walk into the ring.
Yeah, it's very frightening. It's scary. Two men are going to get in and stop at nothing to defeat one another. I don't think it should be played.
It's those moments of blood and heart-thumping violence that gets critics like Arizona Senator John McCain riled up. He wants this kind of spectacle banned.
We don't let roosters engage in cockfighting. We don't allow dogs to fight pit bulls. We don't allow human beings to go out in the street and engage in this kind of activity. We call it disturbing the peace. But we'll do this in a sanctioned manner in various arenas throughout the country. It's a sad commentary on American society.
The critics aren't just in Washington. They're in pursuit of the promoters wherever the games have been staged. Recently, State Senator Roy Goodman helped get an extreme fighting version of this called Battlecade thrown out of New York.
The problem is it's not a sport. It's an animalistic attempt by one human being with no protection and no gloves and nothing to try to maul and basically destroy another human being in a ring.
It's my
So we doing this?
If we do, there goes moving to Paris.
Robert Meyerowitz, the promoter who's making a small fortune off Ultimate Fighting, defends it as safe and controlled.
And it most definitely has rules, the most important of which and the most overlooked of which is that in this sport it is not only permissible but honorable to tap out when you believe you have lost.
Tapping out means giving up when you've had too much. Tapping on the mat as a signal to the referee to stop the fight. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. For example, fierce Russian competitor Oleg Tatarov refuses to tap out. Bloody and beaten and dominated by Dan Severn, Tatarov refused to quit. Nobody jumped in to stop the bloodletting until the fans got their fill.
No, I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to finish. He's going to be able to go.
It's pretty much a fight to the finish unless it goes beyond a half hour. Like the Severn Tatarov fight did. In that case, there was a decision by judges. Dr. George Lundberg, editor of JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, says this is a sport courting a disaster.
There's no question but that the hazards are extreme. The hazards to soft tissue and skin are the greatest, with cuts being what you'd expect in many people. But much more severe things than that can happen, up to and including broken necks, strangulation with fractured larynx, damage to the brainstem and spinal cord.
Meyerowitz scoffs at accusations like that. He claims there have been no deaths or serious injuries in these fights.
You say no one is injured, and yet blood on the canvas is all part of the promotion that you and your people are putting out. You don't bleed without injuries, do you?
Bleeding doesn't mean you're hurt, as I'm sure you know. Injuries to the head bleed easily and profusely without being of any real consequence. We have never had an injury, even with blood, where any combatants had to spend a night in the hospital.
Promoters claim there are many safeguards to end the match. Besides tapping out, the referee can end the match. The ring doctors can step in, or the cornerman can throw in the towel.
They had all the pounding, the elbows, the fists.
We asked the new champion of Ultimate Fighting, Dan Severn, and his wife Carrie, whether the dangers of the sport worry them.
The night of the fight, I don't watch it. I scrub the floors, I scrub the walls, I do anything to keep my mind occupied, and I wait for a phone call.
Carrie likes to put on a confident air, but it's clear she's concerned about serious injury to her husband.
My father calls me from California. Our fans will call and tell me, he won. Do you want to know how he won? No. I had people call and ask me, how much will he win? I don't know how much he'll win. I don't care how much he'll win. I just want to know that he's okay.
Dan, who spends some of his day keeping in shape for the matches,
let's do that one more time.
The remainder training with children in classic wrestling, doesn't himself appear to be worried about injuries.
Well, I come home with a black eye. That's the extent of my injuries.
In the drive to win, could you badly hurt someone?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, personally, I've hurt far worse in amateur wrestling. Far worse in amateur wrestling.
But other contestants haven't fared as well. Some suffering broken bones, chipped teeth, and cuts, especially to the eyes and face. However, the promoters point out that many sports have a high risk of injury.
It's my contention that you watch any football game and you see jerseys full of blood. You watch any boxing match and you see fighters full of blood. You watch any hockey game and you see blood streaming. Let's be real.
Critics respond by saying other sports have stricter rules, a history of performance, and tighter regulations that makes them safer than Ultimate Fighting. But part of the very appeal of Ultimate Fighting is the lack of regulation. Unlike boxing, for example, there are no weight classes to evenly match up the contestants. In one contest, it raised this question: how do you defeat a 616-pound sumo wrestler?
Unbelievable. World's largest athlete.
Manny Tiny Yarborough, at 6 feet 8 inches, can manhandle men his size in the sumo ring. He's ranked #1 among American amateur sumo wrestlers. But he was not prepared for what he faced.
Please welcome Keith Hackney!
Keith Hackney, a black belt karate expert, was just 5'11" and was outweighed by 400 pounds. It was like David and Goliath in the ring.
The guy was just so huge.
Manny's plan was to sit on Hackney with every ounce he had, and he had plenty for the on-charging Hackney.
When I worked his legs, it was like hitting a brick wall.
Keith came out, he ran up on me and rushed me, and he jumped up and slapped me in the temple, which was totally unexpected. I fell. I mean, I didn't think that someone would be able to do that.
And he grabbed me and jumped on top of me and started beating me in the head.
Gotta be quick, he's gotta be quick, he should get out of there.
He threw me through the gate.
I think if I was able to apply a chokehold, I may have been able to win the match, but I just lost sight of what I was supposed to do.
That's a big deal, 600 pounds. Pushes him out of the ring. Get it on.
But what was going through my mind was to win and get out of there in one piece.
He went down again, started punching me, and I just didn't have any more left.
Watch now, and you'll see what many opponents of the sport fear most. Manny is beaten into submission by a succession of hammering strikes to the upper neck and the base of the skull, blows that could result in paralysis in some situations. Hackney broke his hand during this fight. Manny finally taps out on the mat, signaling defeat and giving up.
Emmanuel Yarbrough gets $1,000 for his effort.
It's just a matter of time in ultimate fighting before one opponent damages the other very severely, up to and including death within the ring. I would expect that to happen, probably from a broken neck or a fractured larynx.
The sport is making money with the fans, but when confronted in the ring with public opinion, it's not faring well. Community outrage has led to it being banned in North Carolina, banned in Mississippi, banned in Oklahoma, banned in Kansas, and thrown out of public arenas in Denver and Brooklyn. Ultimate fighting could be on a self-destructive course.
Because there's so much blood and gore, every state in the United States will ban this activity in the relative and near future.
Lord, Tom, something bothersome about the bloodiness of this, even though nobody's civil rights are violated. Absolutely not. No, it appeals to the bloody instinct for survival, perhaps, that's in us, but it's indefinitely the darker side. But it's perfectly legitimate for our civil rights. Are we moving back toward the ancient Roman gladiators? Perhaps. Interestingly enough, among the fans, this is either very intensely liked or it is very passionately disliked. There's nobody in the middle ground on this. That's very interesting. It seems inevitable, like it's going to move into, you're going to buy satellites and whatnot. Absolutely. It's about to be scheduled again in Puerto Rico next week. A ban is already in pursuit of it there. It'll likely be issued by the governor. But they can just move somewhere else, beam it back by satellite from anywhere in the world, and it's going to be coming toward our homes. It's on us. I guess we're going to have a handle on ultimately how to deal with excessive testosterone in the human race. Perhaps.
And testosterone will always be put into play no matter what. Alright. We're going to take one more break. We'll be right back. Coming soon on Give Me a Break. It's a story that you've heard about over 10 years ago. It's a story that led to one YouTuber telling his side of the story. It was also a story that made you sad and made you cry. We're talking about the story of Parker Livert. The story came about because of a custody battle between two exes. His name the son's name was Caleb. The father's name was Caleb, but the son's name was Parker. And I'm 13. He had to share cut. He couldn't even go with his. He had to stay with his father. He wanted to stay with his father, but custody agreement says he had to stay with his mom. Well, that story will come up for you soon, and maybe if Caleb cooperates with me, if I could get Caleb to cooperate with me to have him come on the broadcast via Zoom for our first ever Give Me a Break interview, him, maybe Parker, maybe the ex-wife, and maybe the new stepfather could step in, tell their side of the story, be like, okay, this is how it happened, and this is where we stand. That video's got over 52 million views, and We'll let you know what happens. But, so I'll let you know what's coming up soon on this broadcast. And that's all for this edition of Give Me a Break Wednesday. We'll see you again for Give Me a Break Friday. For all of us here at YouTube, Give Me a Break, stop bullying, speak up. Concentration, not strength. No jaywalking. Take care of yourself and each other. Good night.